Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. Within the last few moments, the protests in downtown Dallas have ratcheted up a bit. Dallas police stepped in to prevent protesting on the highway.
You might remember when we had talked about this earlier that there was some talk that the protesters might try to make their way to 35. Police stopped that. So here's a live look right now. The protesters who have been marching, they're marching in support of Baltimore protests and against police brutality. Now, about 10 minutes ago, the protests stopped in downtown Dallas. The marchers had a police escort, and there was some trouble when the protesters then tried to break away from that escort.
And get onto I-35, possibly near the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, is where police ended up kind of confronting them. Somehow just recently, someone was injured. This is the West End, and this is the location where we have seen one person treated, loaded onto a stretcher, and put into an ambulance. We don't know how that person got arrested. It could have been any reason right there. The ambulance right in front, that's still on scene. That's the one the injured person was loaded into. Relatively peaceful until just a few moments ago. And again, we don't know how this protester became injured in the Dallas West End.
No, but there were an awful lot of folks down there, very crowded, and you can see now everybody crowding around that ambulance, but you know, first responders are down there going to get that person taken care of. So that's the situation, what's happening right now in Dallas. We want to transition and take you to Baltimore. Today, 6 police officers were charged there in Baltimore. They were charged over the death of Freddie Gray, who died after suffering a severe neck injury while in police custody. This is one of the reporters, Leland Vitterts, who's been down there on the scene. This is kind of ground zero for all these protests. So he's doing a live interview right now. Police in Baltimore have said that this is the largest protest by far this entire week, spanning, these folks have marched for like 7 miles tonight.
And part of it has turned into a celebration too.
Right.
I mean, let's not forget that. Very relieved that charges came today. Probably would have been a much different scene had it not gone that way, or maybe the investigation came back and said there would be no charges. All right, so let's keep it back here in Dallas now. Let's switch away from Baltimore. Fox 4's Brandon Todd is at Belo Garden in downtown Dallas, where many of the North Texas protesters gathered earlier today. But we're going to start with Sean Rabb. He's at First United Methodist Church in downtown. Sean, you were following protesters, saw a lot of your tweets tonight. At the church there, they're beginning a learn-in. Explain what that's about.
Yeah, now at the church, the leaders of the Texas Organizing Project and Mothers Against Police Brutality were having a workshop or a seminar. We were there. We left there, again, Steve, Heather, following some of the protesters. We're back on the corner of Commerce and Riverfront. We have watched protesters, a smaller group, about 50 to 75 now, up on the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, over on Commerce Street. We'll tell you about that in a moment. Let's show you the very latest first from Sky 4. Take a look right now. This was that group we're speaking of, 50 to 75 or so. Some of those trying to get up on the entrance ramp to get up on Interstate 35 right here at Commerce Street. It took Dallas police bicycle officers and officers in squad cars to kind of corral them, wrangle them down, and get them back. You know, they were successful back in December getting up on the interstate and effectively shutting down traffic. Police vowed to allow the protesters to have their place, but not give them space to get on the interstate. They were not successful in getting up on Interstate 35. Earlier tonight, as the group marched along the Commerce Street viaduct, again, the same chants we've been hearing, Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace, all of that. At one point, they seemed to lock arms in a moment of unity, indicating that we're all in this together, in fact, that we are all one. Again, now at the church, this meeting that was taking place with the leaders and the organizers of today's event, a seminar, a workshop on a day, it was the culmination point, if you will, on a day of marches and demonstrations in Dallas showing solidarity with Baltimore. Let's take a look and listen now at the video.
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
That's kind of what it was like in downtown today as Mothers Against Police Brutality gathered on the steps of the Frank Crowley Courthouse. Signs raised, voices as well. And you know, there were about a dozen open carry members that showed up here also saying that they were in solidarity with these demonstrators. But this crowd said, listen, your issues are different from ours. There was no confrontation between the groups. There were about 100 or so people who came to the courthouse. That group marched up Main Street to Belo Park, where they merged with hundreds more immigration reformers and other groups chanting again, Black Lives Matter, Latino Lives Matter, and Si Se Puede, or Yes We Can, before again marching to the First United Methodist Church. All of this today, talking about what happened in Baltimore, what's happened in Dallas, and talking about the new unity here in Dallas. Take a listen.
We are here today because it is a new Dallas. This is the city of Dallas' worst nightmare. For black and brown lives to come together, this is the city of Dallas' worst nightmare.
That, of course, Colette Flanagan, her son, Clint Allen, shot by Dallas police, unarmed at the time when he was shot and killed by Dallas police. In all tonight, with all of the groups coming together today, we estimate the crowd between 300 and 400. Again, we don't believe there were any incidents other than the one that's just transpired around Market in the West End now. We don't know the details on that. People we spoke to today, those in the crowd, folks who brought their children and others, we asked them how did they feel, including Sean Harrison, whose brother Jason was killed by Dallas police. We said, how do you feel about the news out of Baltimore? All were surprised, happy, relieved, but said they wanted to wait to see if the other shoe would drop, Steve. And of course, they're talking about if there will be indictment, if there will be convictions, if it gets that far.
Hey, Sean, I do have a question. Last time we had this happened December, the crowd kind of changed, I think, as the night got longer. And earlier they were people that you said they locked arms and that, and unity and solidarity. And then as it got deeper into the night, some of those people, it felt to me like they were replaced with people who wanted to cause trouble. Is that true? Am I misreading the last time?
I think that's what we're seeing.
One? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, and Sean, earlier...
I don't think you're misreading it at all. I don't think you're misreading it at all. Again, a smaller group now, some rebel rousers perhaps in the crowd. We had a couple of people taunting us as we were trying to set up for this live shot. Not the same group of people who were out here earlier at all. Steve, Heather?
Hey, Sean, in your earlier report for our early evening news, when people were driving by, they were honking and supporting. And now that you've got these groups kind of breaking away, I'm wondering how the passersby feel about it now, because we're talking blocking traffic and people walking in the middle of the street. And are you still seeing the same kind of support from people just driving by and who aren't necessarily part of the immediate protesters and marchers?
Well, I can tell you there's probably, now again, I'm not able to, we haven't heard the horns blowing in support. I would guess to say there's probably more frustration because as this group continues to march around Dallas and over the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, the Commerce Street Viaduct, we're seeing 20 to 30 police cars trying to follow them, if you will. And as they turn, then the squad cars turn. It's holding up traffic. It's preventing people from getting where they're wanting to go. So I would imagine there could be some driver disgust at this point. But today, earlier, as this was taking place at the appointed time, 5:30, 6 o'clock, folks going home, coming through downtown, coming here through Commerce Street, blowing their horns, some letting down their windows or opening their roofs on their cars, putting their hands up and saying, hey, Black Lives Matter. And so that group certainly has been replaced, I think. Certainly the core of the people out here today have gone their way. The leaders have gone home, or either they're at the church, but they're not out here now.
All right, Sean, and hey, listen, we appreciate you tweeting all night. We've been following you back here in the studio because you're right there with all the folks in the middle of it all, so we appreciate that. Sean, thank you.